They're like, oh yeah, guy with Pensy steam comes in every once in a while. They're not really much really test LED in the headlight, but we'll take this.
Known quite well by all. She's the regular combination. She's a Wabash cannonball.
Proceed to 15. Hey everyone, this is Pensy Joe here, back again for another review, and today we're going to be reviewing the Oriental Limited Baldwin BP20 passenger diesels, and these are Tuscan red. Alrighty, so I got the box open. This is what it looks like on the inside, nice and yellow. Got some protective foam right here. And already the details are really nice in here. The wheels are nice and clean. This model looks like it has not been used much at all. I did a little test run when I first got these about a couple months ago. So yeah, these are gonna be really exciting. This will be a very exciting future project. These are diesels I've always wanted for a very long time. These are pretty much in tie with my favorite diesel locomotives of all time, the RF-16s. The BP20s are pretty much tied with the RF-16s as one of my favorite locomotives in the diesel side of motive power. And unfortunately, these things sucked in real life. They used a 606 SC twin prime mover, each producing 1,000 horsepower, and they had crankshaft problems. Pretty much the drive shaft that's inside the prime movers themselves, the crankshaft was not strong enough, and they kept failing. So it's kind of strange to me that Baldwin never came back to these with the 606 A or the 608A that they put in the RF-16s and just slap them in here, put two of them in here, and they would have made like 3,200 horsepower each. And I'm pretty sure they would have both fit in here. These diesels are ginormous. They are bigger than an EA. They're the biggest E units, well, not E units, but pretty much the biggest passenger six-axle cab units that were ever created in the United States. Notice I said six-axle. The centipedes were intended to be passenger train units, and they're the longest Generation 1 diesels to be created, and they pretty much are right up near the same length as a DD40AX. Now these guys are about 10-20 feet shorter. Not exactly how much shorter, but if I had my centipede out here, the centipede would probably be right up to here compared to the nose. So these guys are about 20-30 feet longer than a RF-16, which, by the way, I will show you guys a comparison of the size between the RF-16 and the BP20. As you can see, the RF-16 is small compared to this. Like, really, really small. There's the RF-16. The nose on the BP20 is slightly longer than the RF-16. And as you can see, there's a huge amount of length still left compared to the RF-16 for the locomotive. So it is absolutely ginormous. And this is a Broadway, by the way, a Broadway RF-16. So, yeah, what got me to spend probably a good amount of money for these guys? And I did. I got an A-B set, and I'm proud that I got an A-B set because prototypically these did run either an AA, A, or AB sets. They never ran as ABA sets, although there probably was a prototype test run with an ABA set for the Broadway Limited, but that never really came to be because these had, like I said, similar issues in terms of maintenance and reliability problems with the prime movers. Again, it is what it is. It's a shame that Baldwin never had the idea to just put better motors that they engineered inside their older models, which probably would have saved them, but, you know, too little too late, Baldwin. So, without further ado, when did Oriental Limited start making these? Now, I did some research on brasstrains.com of the versions that they got to see, and these were pretty much produced mid-1980s to very late 1980s. Pretty much the last time is, I think, 1989. I don't think there were anything later than that, but I could be wrong. Uh, these are probably in between that. Now, these are, in my book, fairly modern brass diesels. Now, these are made by Sam Hongza. As you can see, look how beautiful this shark is. It's got a Leslie 200 horn on there, so that's what will be fit when I say do DCC. It already has, let's try and get some light over here. It already has a glass cover or a plastic cover over the headlight. I'll have to replace that incandescent bulb that's inside there with an LED. And I'll have to figure out how to put placards for the number boards on the nose of the shark. I might not have them light up, which is okay. It's not really a matter of a thing that needs to be done. And as you can see, there are already holes for the marker lights. If it focuses, probably will not focus. That's good enough. And I'll have to get a coupler box by Katie and try and put it up in the front of the locomotive. Probably a long shake will probably be good, suffice enough. And what's great about this is that the cab interior is painted. It's got like this seaboard sea foam green kind of color inside, which is pretty cool. There's no cab figures. There are some chairs and some interior details, so that's kind of cool. That's pretty cool. There's no glass on this, so I'll have to either make my own or I can just leave it the way it is. It is missing a windshield wiper, unfortunately, which I can probably always like 3D scan or make new ones or something like that, or make my own. It's not a huge biggie, but it is what it is. I'm not planning to resell these ever, so that's how it is. Now, as you can see, here's the roof detail. We already got the train phone on here, so that is nice, very beautiful. Goes pretty much from end to end. This is somewhere where the exhaust stacks for the prime movers would be, right here and right here. Now, I'm not 100% sure where the prime movers are. I think they're right under here and right under here. And then in here is probably where the traction motors are. And in the rear, this is where they have like the steam generator for the passenger cars. I mean, these things are ginormous. And these are pretty heavy. These are probably like, I don't know, 2 or 3 pounds. These things will pull anything. I'm already telling you guys right now, these can probably pull anything. I have the fuel tank on correctly. Before I had it backwards, probably for clearance issues. Usually right around back here. I could probably figure out how to make sure they don't bang up against the fuel tank down here. I'll probably have to add some paint to the fuel caps to add some color. Now it looks like the gold leaf lettering for the builder's plate on this side is gone, which is not a real big problem. I'm probably not going to really mess with that, but it is on this side, so it is what it is. Now I'm not sure what happened to this brass right here. Something must have happened during production where it got banged up a bit, but you know what? That doesn't really bother me, actually. It kind of gives it some, you know, as if it was hand worked on for whatever reason. I mean, it's not. I'm not going to weather this, obviously. I would not want to weather these. I like to keep my locomotives clean on my railroad. It shows that the locomotives are cared for very well. And the freight cars, well, they could be a mix of clean and weathered. So, yes, these are Sam Hongza gearboxes. These are pretty much bulletproof. I don't need to swap these out. Now, the trucks are brass. There only is pickups right here for this wheel and this wheel. This wheel is not a pickup, and I believe it's only one side. That could be an issue. There's only pickups right here, and on the other side, it's the opposite near the end, right here and right here. There's a wiper going down in there. Is this an issue? Well, probably not. I have to test it first. I'd have to do some more research on what other modifications I need to do. But I could just simply open this up, do left rail and right rail, and see how it works to see if it shorts. And then I'll do some limitation testing to see what causes the short. And if it doesn't cause too much of a short, I don't really have to do much major modifications, if any at all. And if it picks up well with Keep Alive, and that's a great thing about Keep Alive, if you have a strong enough Keep Alive or a big enough Keep Alive, I could probably don't have to even modify to even have more pickups. Unfortunately, you can't get a right, you can't get like, this is right rail, for example, and this is left rail. I can't do left rail pickup as well as another, right rail pickup on here. So if I want to do all pickup right here and all pickup, right here, like a modern day diesel would, it's just not going to happen unless I do some serious modifications. And yes, these truck coverings are brass. Now, I am curious to know if I can replace these with plastic, because it looks like you can take these faces off and you can replace them if you want to. I don't think it's meant for that, but it just takes these, side frames off. If they do, somebody makes those that could go for this particular model, I might as well do it. But I'm not going to really mess with this too much. I'm really going to test to see what the limitations are for DCC just by doing simple wiring. Now, they shouldn't really short at all. I have tested this on the layout on DC, and it wasn't really doing like a problem where a short was stopping it from moving around. But this model will definitely need me to open up the gearboxes to check the lubrication and update the lubrication before I really do some, breaking in kind of testing for the electronics and for the motor. Speaking of which, to open this model, you will need to unscrew 8 screws. You got one right here, one on the other side. And there's a good amount of range for this. I mean, look at the motion. There is a lot of motion. A lot of tiltability. That's pretty good. It's what you kind of want for a diesel. I'm not too worried about it contacting with the shell, but, you always want to make sure, you test the shorting limitations when you test on a layout. So, again, just, when it comes to brass models, you might have to do a good amount of, modifications, and sometimes you don't have to do any at all. And all you have to do is just wire it up, and then there it goes. However, this may be a different story. So, again, just keep that in mind. We got screws under the fuel tank. You basically have to unscrew these 4 screws that are holding the fuel tanks into place in order to get the shell off as well. And you got one, and it's under there, right there. Right there. That's another screw. So there's 8 screws you'll need to do in order to take off the shell of the locomotive. Now we're going to do that right now to take a look at what's going on inside this locomotive. Now it's pretty bare in here, just to give you a heads up, everyone. There's nothing too radical going on inside here. The most that you will see is just a motor, and that is pretty much it. There is not a whole lot of detail inside. As you can see, there's some scuff on here, but I'm not too worried about that. Again, it's just things you have to look out for when you buy brass models. Some of them are scuffed. I'm not going to see that. Nobody's not going to look at that and be like, oh. So, I got these for a good deal. I feel like I got them at the right time. Could they have gone any cheaper? Possibly, but I don't think that was going to be very likely. These are considered rare to find an HO. So, to get one of these, even to get an A unit could be kind of tough. I got these when there was a whole bunch of these. I would say probably around like, I don't know. There you go. There's the motor. That is a CAN motor in there. And boy, is it a nice CAN motor. It looks similar to a motor I've seen before. Alright, let's take this off. Pull that out. And there we are. Here's the inside. Whoop. Sorry about that. Let me try and reposition that. Move this fuel tank out of the way for a second. There we go. And here we are. This is how it looks. I don't know if this is lead or what, but these are two nice flywheels. Feels ultra smooth. This is pretty much a modern motor right here. back in 1989. This is a pretty nice motor. You will not need to replace this. If you want to, you can, but you'll have to see if there's any modern motor that can fit in here. However, the dimples on here make me think this is based off of one of those Cato motors, but I can definitely be wrong. I'm not sure how many poles this is. I'm not sure at all how many poles it is. It's probably a 5-pole. I used to talk to somebody named True Brass, and he said you don't really need to do like a lot of work on these, but if you do it right, these can be very rewarding models. So we got let's see. You got a pickup right here that goes all the way around here. Oh, actually goes up here. Goes all the way to the back up here. And yeah, I'm trying to figure this out. Give me a second. Okay, so this could be the positive of the motor going under here and over here with a pickup that's connected to here. Now, I'm really curious of if this will cause any shorts, because if you look at this, this is metal connected to all the way over here. So I'm really curious if there will be a short if I decided to start messing with this. Probably not. But again, this is going to be one of those interesting things I'll have to figure out. The gearbox tower is metal. This is solid. This is a solidly made model right here. Yes, we got some plastic right here, but this is high-grade plastic. I'm not really worried about these universal joints whatsoever, and I don't see any cracks on these. These are good. Given its age, this is a really good. This is a good sign. Really good. Kept well in good order. And we got a PCB board in here that controls the lighting, probably to keep the bulb from bursting or whatever current that's going through there. In order for me to get in here, I'll have to screw this out, and that's how I'll be able to access the nose to get to the headlight. This is what the interior looks like. It's got fans etched in, some unpainted stuff, a lot of soldering. Looks like it was done for the extra details that were poking through. Pretty neat, and there's also a rear window. So yeah, there's also some windows cutouts right there on each side. So this is what the interior is. It's very plain. There's a lot of space. There's definitely a lot of space to fit a decoder in here. You could probably get away with stuff in the decoder in here to get it out of the way. And you could probably tape the keep alive up here, or just have the keep alive somewhere around here. Or, you know, just stuff it out of the way so it doesn't mess with this drive shaft right here. So yeah, it's really, really interesting. Feels very modern. This is probably one of the better brass models you can get and not have to worry about super modifying or anything like that. So that to me is a plus in my book. That is a plus if you don't have to do too much modifications. Now, this will be a fun experiment. If people want to see me do a TCS wow job on this, I will do it. I will be happy to do it. However, I do not think I'm at the moment to do this. I do have the capability of doing this. I just have to get the decoders. But I don't think I have the right couplers to put the boxes in yet. And I don't know. I feel like this would be a great finale project though. If people want to see this happen, I'll make it happen somehow. So yeah, this is what the A unit looks like inside. Now the B unit's probably very similar. It's got the same exact motor in here, same flywheels, same drive system, etc. In fact, I'll put this shell back on and I'll put the B unit out and we'll take a look inside that as well, just to do some comparisons. Here is the inside of the B unit. Pretty straightforward. However, there's no extra wires for the light. It's only the extra wires for the motor. So this would be probably right rail right here, and then left rail over here. And this is the forward, and this is the rear, and I'll show what the locomotive looks like with the shell back on. Alright, and this is the B unit with the shell on. And again, these are just ginormous. These B units are huge. These are probably around the same size in terms of length, overall length each. The A and B unit are probably the size of the SD80s. I mean, they're huge. These are just big Gen 1 diesels. I can't stress enough. And these will, again, be really fun projects for when I do DCC on these. And hopefully do it good enough that they can run anywhere. And probably, theoretically, are going to be one of the most reliable trains on my layout or in my fleet. So it's just, they're really nice. And these are as close as you're going to get to the accuracy of the BP20s. There's really only two companies that made the BP20s, and that is Alco Models and Oriental Limited. And Oriental Limited is pretty much as close as possible as you're going to get an HO scale without adding your own details to making accurate BP20s, Baldwin BP20s. And I have to say, just avoid the Alco ones at all costs. They're not worth it. I mean, save your money, get this if you want BP20s. Or if you don't want brass, you know, you can always find kits and kit batch. You know, like Darth Santa Fe did a BP20 similar like these, and he kit bashed them. And I have to say, they were really nice. And I tried to go on the website myself to get the resin kit, but it just didn't want to let me go there. So I was like, I'm not going to mess with that. So, yeah. All right, now we're going to put these guys on the layout and have them test together. Alright, I got my current train off the track, and we'll turn on with turning power. Power is on. No buzzing sounds. I'm going to apply some power. We're going in reverse. We're starting to get power at around throttle 25. That's pretty good. Look at that crawl, even on DC is pretty good. The B unit's kind of loud. It's not derailing. It's doing really well on these curves. Going in reverse, it's really nice. Alright, we'll go forward. There they go, they start moving. Headlights starting to turn on. And we're at 50%. See how well it does over a switch. It didn't even stop. That is amazing. Good. And this is not wired. See, I'm putting my fingers on here, I don't feel current. So it went over a switch. That's pretty good. There they go. The unit's a little bit rattly. Here they come to the other side. And they're going to go around these curves. Again, these are really superb. There's not a lot of stopping. There's no stopping and starting. So I have to say the pickup is actually pretty good on this, if I'm to be honest. Obviously no shorts are going on, which is good. It just bumped over this track, which is fine. It didn't derail. That's good. Can handle some differences in terrain, I guess, on the track if it's not smooth. There they go. Going around the extended part of the layout now. We're about to complete a full lap. A little noisy, which is to be expected. I'm pretty sure if I run these long enough, add some more lube and upgrade some grease in these, it'd probably not make as much. Actually, they're not making much sound at all anymore. Look at that. All it takes is just some movement again. Very, very nice. These are very nice running models. And I haven't tested all the terrain it can handle, so we'll this is kind of flat since it's on flat ground, although laminate flooring can be a little bit, not smooth, so there is some realism in terms of how flat, it could run over. There are some dips in the flooring, very minor, but oh, there we go. So maybe a keep alive would definitely keep that going. But yeah, that's okay. The A unit was still trying to push that B unit. But hey, these are pretty good. I have to say these are for DC only operation. These are really good. Now I can't really score these the same way I do for other models. In terms of electronics, there's none. So right out of the box, we're going to do this differently. Same thing with the tri-row locomotive that I have now added DCC and sound, but we're not talking about that. Same thing with the Walters train line F40 PHs. These, I didn't really rate those because they don't have the full capabilities. Now in terms of drive, their drive is fairly well. However, I've already stated their problems. These guys do not have any problems in terms of drive. In terms of pickup, it is to be tested. It didn't do well over that switch for the B unit coming in reverse. However, when they were going, forward at a decent pace, their footprint is large. Yes, they do not have all 6, wheel pickups, but the footprint of how long these diesels are is ginormous. Like they can reach pretty far to contact something, so it can go over a dead spot fairly well. And I'm pretty sure once they get TCS WOW put into these, which is the decoder of choice I'm going to choose to put the 606A prime movers in here, and they're going to be twin prime movered. So it's going to be really interesting hearing those things making sounds as they put around the layout with the lights and all that stuff. And I'm not sure about interior details. I'd like to get crew figures for these. My major concern is how I'm going to do right rail and left rail, motor minus and motor plus, and how perform, because the B unit is different. I can just splice, off the motor, the wires to the trucks and use the trucks pickup as right rail and left rail. But then when I do that, I'm going to have to check and see how well they do, on DCC just by using left rail and right rail first. Then I will test the motors. And then I'm going to test them around the layout to see how well they can handle curves and stuff. And I will test them to go over the switch right here. This switch is going to be an example of what's going to happen if it just starts to curve and then, you got plus. Like, let's say this is plus and this one's minus. Because this is minus, right? Yes, that frog is supposed to be insulated, but I'm really curious on how well it will go over that since the wheels are spread out and the pickups are I'm really curious. That's all I got to say. So we'll test the performance on if it causes a short or going over switches. It'll be really interesting to figure that out when I get to that point. However, again, these are brass. Most of the stuff on here is brass with, with die-cast trucks, or not that yeah, the trucks are die-cast in their gearboxes. They're like some sort of die-cast, so it's a lot more durability with the gearbox. I'm not sure what the gears are made out of, but I believe they're made of a high quality, either plastic or metal, which is interesting. We didn't get to that. According to True Brass, he says these things run really well and really reliable, and they'll probably last longer than a Baldwin Centipede by Broadway Limited. So, that's going by word of mouth. So, you know what? We'll open one of the truck's bottom first, and we'll take a look inside, and then I'll finish what my thoughts are for this model, or models, in that matter of fact, since I got an AB unit. Okay. So this is what the gearbox looks like. It's a mix between plastic gears and brass gears. So that's very interesting. I'm going to try and make sure that these stay inside. However, I can just plop this plate back on and that should solve all the problems. They look to be very well lubed. They do look like they need some grease though. So I'll do that at a later point and add some grease to these. It looks like it had some grease prior, but not so much at the moment. But yeah, I'm pretty impressed with this. The design is actually pretty thick. It doesn't really need much, honestly. Make sure the gears are all in place, of course. And yeah, these gears look like they're going to last a good amount of time, so I'm not really worried about these. Pretty sure it's going to be hard to find replacement gears, so make sure you keep these things in good condition, guys. I know I will. And make sure you get there well lubed and well greased. So I'm going to put the plate back on, right there. And now I'm going to screw this side down. As well as screw this side. Get the middle as well. Although it seems a little bit loose here. I'll come back to you guys and I'll give you my final thoughts on these. Alrighty, so this pretty much wraps up the review. So with the gears being a mix of brass and plastic, I'd have to say these are pretty good. The axle gears are brass, which I think is really nice. I'm surprised that not a lot of other companies do that. The idler gears that go in between each gear are interesting. It's really interesting. Now there's 3 bolts. The longest bolt is the one that's in the middle. Now that bolt you have to make sure it's all the way down after you do the left and right ones. Otherwise, the gears are kind of loose. They're not gonna pretty much mesh together properly. But once you tighten those up, the middle one, after you've done the each one at each end, then they lock into place, and you have to worry about one of the axles spinning or anything, or pretty much you have to worry about those idler gears moving out of their guide or anything, or their hole to hold them in. And they pretty much have metal rubbing against metal and the metal journals inside the gearbox, so they have very minimal wear that will happen over time. It is really pretty well made compared to a lot of other models I've seen. So I'm not going to expect very much wear at all, though I definitely will add grease into the gearbox since it does look a little bit sparse when it comes to grease. I'll check both locomotives and both gearboxes to make sure they're doing all right. And overall, what would I give these models? It's instead of something out of 10, it's going to be something out of 6. The details are pretty good. However, there's no windows, there's no crew figures. So, can I really take that away? Yes, I'm going to have to. Being the most accurate BP20s in the market pretty much puts them pretty high. Yes, you'll have to add your own coupler boxes, so that detracts a little bit from the model itself. But overall, I'll give it like a I'll give it a 2 out of 3. You know, it's pretty good. It's actually pretty good because when it comes to drive quality, I have to give it a 3 out of 3. So in total, it'll be a 5 out of 6. Now, a 5 out of 6 is pretty up there. Shoot. Gotta do your math tables, right? Because it'll probably be like somewhere close to a B. So these models will probably be close to an 8 out of 10. 7 or 8 out of 10. For me personally, it's closer to an 8. And the reason why I say it's closer to an 8 is because, you know, if you want specific Pennsylvania diesels, this is as close as you're going to get for a reasonable price compared to other roads that have unique locomotives. They want thousands of dollars. I got these for about $660, $330 a piece. Now, usually the A units go more than the B units. The B units usually average between $400 to $600 on brass trains, and usually on eBay sometimes in the past. And the A units, they usually go for between $500 to $700, sometimes even $800. And I've seen them go for that a lot of money in previous bids, months ago, even before I got these. So I got these at a really good point where not a lot of people are really trying to get these for a price. A lot of people were trying to stay away from them for a bit. Of course, there were people that still wanted them, but I got these by like a hair, and I'm glad that I got them. I got them from a train company in Italy, not Italy, but Spain. For some reason, these were in Spain, which is interesting that they were out there. Very, very interesting, right? So that's how I got them. That's how I won them. And I'm glad that I got them because there's barely information about these guys out there on the internet. Nobody doesn't know what these look like on the inside. You can't even go on like Google Images. In fact, if you want to, take some screenshots and post them on Google or whatever, do that. Please do that because people need to know about these models. And it's a shame that not a lot of information is out there about these. And I try to do what I can do about these with the limited knowledge that's actually out there about these models. You have to basically ask people to maybe get some information about them. Again, it's very limited information out there, and I hope that my channel brings more light to these models because they deserve it. These BP20s by Oriental Limited deserve it. Oriental Limited deserves this spotlight here. And, it's just a shame that the only other videos I've seen online of these BP20s are by True Brass. He has 2 videos of an A and a B unit, both Tuscan red, and he has the very rare 2 dual headlight, which has the Mars light on top. Those ones are hard to find, and I've seen them twice on eBay, and they were unpainted, and nobody was going for them, and they went for under $400 each. I was shocked I didn't get any because painting these things are going to be a pain in the butt. So I wanted to get the painted ones. That's how they are. The single headlights are easier to find than the dual headlights. Dual headlights will come unpainted or Tuscan red. I have not seen them in DGLE. I don't know if they're made by DGLE. I've searched and I looked on brasstrains.com to see if there's maybe information about that. Nope, there is not. So those are 2 ways you can find the dual headlights, and they're not easy to find from what I understand out there by True Brass, who has told me they're not that very easy to find, the dual headlight version. The single headlight version and the B units are going to be easier to find. A units are kind of harder to find because, you want an A unit to lead the train. The B units are easier to find. You see these more often, and they usually are cheaper than the A units. So if you do see an A-B pair, definitely get both. If you just want an A unit, you can. But if you're going to get BP20s, get an A-B set. Also, there is such thing called the BF16s. I don't know 100% what the BF16s were about. I wanted them originally, but I decided, you know what, if you can get a BP20, you can get a BP20. But the BF16s were the freight versions of the BP20s, and they only came in DGLE. And that's all I have to say about the Oriental Limited. I hope you guys enjoyed this very unique and very special in-depth review. This is pretty much the first review out there about these out there, and I hope there's more to come and more people are willing to talk about these and, share, how to upgrade these things, which I'll try to do my best to do when I do get around with these, to put DCC sound in these and add more interior details and crew figures and lights and stuff. It'll be very interesting. It's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. I have done models like for example, I've done my tri-roll locomotive, and I can tell you this, it was not that hard. It's not that as bad, but that one's a little bit tight compared to these. So it's just made out of brass. You just got to make sure you're, making sure that things that are hot are not touching what they're not supposed to touch, etc., etc. It's more metal you have to deal with and worry about causing shorts. That's the only difference. Well, that's all I have to say. This is Pensy Joe. I hope you guys, again, enjoyed this video, and stick around for the next video. All right, that's it. Bye now.
Hear the lonesome hobo squall, riding through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball. Well, the eastern states are dandy, so the western people say. St. Louis to Chicago, Rock Island by the way. From the hills of Minnesota, where the rippling waters fall, no chances can be taken on the Wabash Cannonball. Oh, listen to the jingle, the rumble and the roar, as she glides along the woodland to the hill and by the shore. Hear the mighty rush of the engine, hear the lonesome hobo squall, riding through the jungle on the Wabash Cannonball. Now here's to Daddy Claxton, may his name forever stand, and may he be remembered in the courts throughout the land. When his earthly race is over, let the curtains round him fall. We'll carry him home to victory on the Wabash Cannonball. Oh, listen to the jingle, the rumble and the roar, as she glides along the woodland through the hill and by